My name is Bob Hill, and I'm the president of the Church of Scientology Mission of Riverdale at 308 Broadview Avenue. This is Sunday service number 28 during the coronavirus. The topic of today's sermon is kindness. Now, what does kindness mean? I'll tell you what it means. It means being friendly, benevolent, being nice to people. Sometimes just being kind can make a difference and put a smile on somebody's face. So today we're going to take it up. Scientology is a practical religion. It teaches a person how to know. That's what the word Scientology means. Knowing how to know. Today's changing world can be frustrating, and it can be filled with long lineups and short tempers. One way to survive and grow spiritually is to be kind. Today's sermon is taken from the writings of L. Ron Hubbard on the importance of kindness. Now, I'm going to read to you what kindness would be like or could be like. You ready? Great. There's hardly one of us who hasn't asked himself the question, isn't it better to be mean? Almost every one of us has had the feeling that we were a bit soft. We didn't like flying into the teeth of some human and making him or her feel bad. We've told ourselves, we ought to be tougher. I'm sure you've done that. We ought to put up a better front. We got to be stronger. We ought to know when to snarl, know when to show the sharpened tooth, and probably we've walked away occasionally after we've loaned somebody $5 or something of the sort and said, when am I going to learn to be tough? When am I going to learn to be hard-boiled and just stand right up to that kid and say no? When am I going to learn this? The motto behind this is, isn't it better to be mean occasionally? You've probably heard that, haven't you? When am I going to stop being soft and be a hard, forthright, capable of saying no person? I'd be a much better manager. I would be a much better person if I knew when to come down with a slight slam. If I could just know occasionally when I should be mean, and if I was just willing to be mean, wouldn't that be right? I should be able to just take the people out there and just sweep them aside. Isn't there some rightness in being tough? We're going to answer all those questions. You ready? One can spot times when he knows he should have been tougher. He's sure of it. But a highly informative series of Scientology spiritual counseling procedures demonstrates that the person who is willing to confront other things doesn't ever have to say no. He doesn't ever have to be mean. He doesn't ever have to be tough at all. Isn't that interesting? And by confront things, when I use that word confront, we mean face things without flinching or avoiding. It is perfectly all right to be nice to people. It isn't a weakness at all. As a matter of fact, if you aren't, you're in the soup. So you've probably seen that. There's guys that are mean and nasty. Oh yeah, maybe you can judge him by, oh, he's got lots of money and he did it by being mean or something. But how happy is the guy really, if that's how he came to those ends? I'll tell you, he's in the soup. He's not doing well. You could say that the only times for which you are suffering are those times when you weren't nice enough. Now that's probably can come home to you. If you can think of the times when, let's say, a kid comes up to you and he's running around your feet and all of a sudden you go, will you stop that? I'm trying to watch this TV show. And then after that, your attention hangs up on it and you think, maybe I should have talked to that kid. Maybe it's better to be in communication than to watch the TV show and grant that little child some beingness. So you can count those times when you weren't kind enough and when you weren't unmean enough. Those are the only times from which you're really suffering. Interesting, isn't it? It is not true that being mean gets anybody ahead any place. That's really factual. When you deny your fellow, you say, be mean, you say, be very positive. The truth of the matter is that you're denying him communication one way or the other. Like, you don't know that guy's reality at that time when you're talking to him. What if you were mean to a guy in a lineup at, say, the store? Because we run into lineups constantly in this time period. So you're in a lineup and some guy, he's frustrated, and all of a sudden you get mean and say, why don't you just knock it off, you meathead, or, shut up. Well, what if that guy had just had an argument with his wife? Or what if he hadn't eaten today because he didn't have enough food in the house? Or maybe he even felt a little bit off for the day. You don't know. So by being mean to him, all he does is go deeper into his own meanness and upset, and then you just made his day much worse. Now, you could have been kind, try to be kind to the guy, and just, okay, so the guy's being nasty, I had one guy, I'll give you an example. He was being mean and nasty. And so instead of getting angry with him, I just looked at him and I said, it's not good to fight with people constantly. There's enough craziness going on in the world without people standing in a line and fighting with each other. I actually said that to the guy. And he started to calm down, and I said, and if you're acting that way, you probably, like if you're being upset and angry, you probably know that that's happened before. And all of a sudden the guy calmed right down. He says, well, I don't want to be like, I don't want to be mean, and I said, I believe you. And then the rest of the time, everything went smoothly, and we were able to complete what we were doing. So I tried it. I tried being kind instead of getting angry with the guy, and it worked. And the guy felt better afterwards. So there's an exact example. That was a week ago on a construction site, believe it or not. Now, the only thing you should ever be tough about is insisting that the other fellow ought to stand on his own feet too. And the only way you will ever communicate that to him is to communicate to him in a very nice way. Then he's liable to receive it, like I did with that guy. You're causing fighting and so on, and I was nice about it. And you really need to stop it. We don't need to do this. He was able to receive my communication. Now, I'm not saying you have to go out and do that, you can find your own footing on how you want to apply this. I highly recommend it. Being mean is simply going out of communication with things. The individual who is kind, who is decent, and who does communicate, and who is nice, and who isn't averse, that means against, to conversation and saying this and doing that, who is tolerant, we find gets along beautifully. But the fellow who's mean and who's ornery and who's cutting communications all the way along the line, we find he's in the soup. Therefore, a standard of optimum human performance would be measured on the basis of human kindness as a high and human meanness as a low. So we know the answer at last to whether you should have been mean all those times or whether you should have been more kind. You should have been more kind. Okay? And with that, I'm going to read to you the creed of the Church of Scientology. And then we'll end off. Alrighty? Very good. We of the Church believe that all men of whatever race, color, or creed were created with equal rights. Now, you'd have to be kind to someone to get that across to them. That all men have inalienable rights to their own religious practices and their performance. There you go again. So you're in an environment and people are practicing certain things. You may not agree with them. However, you could try and be kind so you could get in communication with the environment and see the things around you. That all men have inalienable rights to their own lives. That all men have inalienable rights to their sanity. That all men have inalienable rights to their own defense. That all men have inalienable rights to conceive, choose, assist, or support their own organizations, churches, and governments. Keep that in mind because, again, we go back to kindness and how it relates to that. You have your own set of ideologies that you're functioning with. What if the guy next door has a different set of ideas? The only way you'll ever get in communication with the guy is to try and be kind enough to listen to him, whether he's right, wrong, or whatever. If you want to try and help that guy, or you would expect to be helped, look for kindness. That all men have inalienable rights to think freely, to talk freely, to write freely their own opinions, and to counter or utter or write upon the opinions of others. Easy to go against that one. I mean, some guy disagrees with you. If you're not kind enough to get into communication, you could have a big brawl. So try and be kind, and you'll find you'll come out on top. And you'll feel better, even if at the end of it you still don't, you two guys don't agree, at least you're in communication and you're friends. That all men have inalienable rights to the creation of their own kind. That the souls of men have the rights of men. That the study of the mind and the healing of mentally caused ills should not be alienated from religion or condoned in non-religious fields. And that no agency less than God has the power to suspend or set aside these rights overtly or covertly. And we of the church believe that man is basically good, that he is seeking to survive, that his survival depends upon himself and upon his fellows in his attainment of brotherhood with the universe. And we of the church believe that the laws of God forbid man to destroy his own kind, to destroy the sanity of another, to destroy or enslave another's soul, to destroy or reduce the survival of one's companions or one's group. And we of the church believe that the spirit can be saved, and that the spirit alone may save or heal the body. So there you go. That creed, if you follow it and you apply your kind and you operate off those simple datums, your life will be better. I can't guarantee you'll become a multi-millionaire, although if that's your goal, go for it. But at least you'll have a calm and peaceful life. And each day that ends, you'll be satisfied because you know in that day, you are at least kind to your fellow man. So try it. That's it for today's sermon. You're going to see places where you can get books on this, on how to, these books will help you to be more kind. You can get books on how to help you through this COVID period. Okay? Thank you.